Hello and welcome to London Gatwick. We have a Ryanair 737-800 Echo India Echo Foxtrot Yankee. We're on stand. Normally up to this point you'll have seen me operate the FS Labs A320X. I've had this aircraft for some time. I stopped flying it regularly, not that I do fly regularly, but I stopped flying it regularly purely because on final on an ILS you could not slow it down. Not that you couldn't deploy the flaps, the speed brakes, the landing gear to get it slowed down. There was an actual glitch with it where it would just speed up to the point where clearly there was some sort of error going on. I haven't done anything directly to reinstall. In fact, I think I might have reinstalled it a good while back, but either way, I'm not entirely sure if when we get to our destination today I'm going to come across this problem once more. That's something we'll find out at the other end, and if it does happen we'll have wasted some time, but nonetheless only one way to go and find out. Plan out of here down to Zurich. Obviously the aircraft's all parked up on stand. We've got British Airways doing the ground handling with GSX. UK 2000 scenery for Prepar. Ryanair don't fly this route, EasyJet do, and as far as my research has shown me, EasyJet's the only one that does it, so I'm going a little bit against the rules here, I suppose, but still nonetheless gives us a chance to explore Prepar's PMDG 737-800 a little bit more, and obviously Prepar as well. I'm using ENV texture and ENV shade. So what I'll do is I'll get us set up on the flight deck, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of a learning curve myself. I'm not going to run with checklists. I'm going to just do everything off the back of my head and run accordingly. Quite different from the A320. My gut instinct is to sit here and say the A320's the better of the two. I know that PMDG's products are lend themselves very well to procedural training, and I also know that FS Labs have made a great product that's very, very true to the Airbus itself. So without any further ado, let's get ourselves set up and get the show on the road. So initial look around, obviously the overhead panel very different to the Airbus, much more rugged, as a 747 captain, a very well respected 747 captain, said to me recently. These are designed to operate in the bush essentially, and in any part of the world. Much more rugged, much more sort of utilitarian if you like. I mean, you look at these textures over here. PMDG have no doubt tried to be as true as possible to the 800 as they can. So I haven't got us in here in a cold and dark state. I've set the got the APU started, and I haven't done anything else apart from that. Basically, if you're interested, Battery Master is up here. It's got a cover over it, so that's on. Once that's on, start the APU. You got the APU start switch, and you'll see the exhaust gas temperature raise on the APU. Once that's available, you can take the two APU selectors here for the generators, Fasten seatbelt signs on, emergency lights. I haven't put the hatch on because as soon as I do it knocks it back to armed and I lose all lights in the cabin, so I'm going to leave that until I've got everything started up. Other than that, I'm going to have a little closer look at the IRSs, I suppose they're called in this, or as they would be in the Airbus, the ADIRUs. So yeah. Sorry for wandering outside. Right, let me fix that. Right, best way to do that. So, get these set to a line. I'll let those run up. Go back to the FMS or FMC. Right, this is where Boeing definitely win. This is a lot more user friendly, a lot more positive. Speaking of positive, we'll go to Posinit. Position initial, EGKK. Gate, I'll see if it's written up here, gate 22. And that's confirmed. Routes. So it knows the origin, which is EGK. Well, it doesn't actually. I'll put that in. Hang on, it does. Sorry. Little slip there. And LSZH for Zurich. I'm going to assume runway 26 left for departure. The only thing I'm missing from this is the light. Ah, there we go. I just want to turn the... how do I turn the console up itself? I will have it up as much as possible. I should have FS spotlights working with this, but again, I think it's another little problem I'm having somewhere I've got to sort out, so that's all for that. Again, I've become very, very familiar recently with the Airbus, so I am running off a bit of a grey area with this. Okay, so that's the initial page done. Go to init.ref. There's one thing I do need to do before we go any further, and that's to come out of here, and that's back to index. Right, this is where return to setup. Right, fuel and payload. Okay, so fuel. This one says to use 4,800. I feel like we should take more, but we'll see what PFPX leaves us with, the other end. And obviously the payload, 171 passengers. Actually 174. So we have got a full house. This is Ryanair, of course. We've got a full house. Ramp weight, we're looking for 63,882. We've got way more than that, so let's just put 0 in. 0 in, and we'll work back the other way. So we've got 60 exactly, and we're looking for 1650 in the forward, 1650 in the rear, 63.3. Oh, we need a bit more. My maths isn't what it should be. 1850. $63.7, that's close enough for me. So 0 fuel weight is 58.9, 22.2. $58.9, and it knows. That's one difference between the Airbus and this. It already knows. And 4.0. In fact, let's just see if I can just click that straight in. No, it wants me to put it. It wants me to confirm it. Thing is, I used to have a Boeing mindset. It's amazingly how quickly you can transition reserves. I'm just going to put let's put 2 ton in. Cost index Ryanair, this is going to be 20. I'll get that door closed in a second, just so in fact, let's get that door closed now. Let's get that front door closed at least, just so you're not hearing all that noise. We have the cargo doors closed as well. It's not the nicest background noise even with the doors closed. Okay, so legs page, route page, departure arrival. Departure is going to be a Dover departure if we can get it. 26 left selected, and we'll do a Dover 8 mic. That's activated. Okay. It then immediately lends you into flap 5 takeoff. It's 22.8. Trim 4.7. Rotate at 130 and climb at 142, which is quite a big old margin. QRH on. So trim 4.7. Have a good close look in here. Okay, that's all set. It's into the legs page. Alright, let's see if we can do it the same thing, which doesn't allow it. So into the route page. Right, this is where I have to start using my imagination. So I'm assuming it'll be a UL9. Not assuming that bit, but I'm assuming the input. UL9 to Conan. Let's see if that does a trick. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't want to know that. Right. Oh. Progress page. Next page, menu page, init ref, root page. Don't worry, got it. UL9. Got it. Excellent stuff. Conan. And then from Conan, UL607. To the comically named Cock. Out of Cock on the UM150 to Dick. Yeah, someone's been really creative here, haven't they? Not me, I assure you. For that will do as far as I need us to go. Next page, 6,000 feet on the MCP. So, there we go. And 220 knots speed for the initial climb. And the auto throttle's arm now. Flight directors on both sides. And I think they can go to nav. I'll take the risk. Excellent stuff. That's put us exactly where we want to be. And all of a sudden I've got a different noise. The way this thing's behaving so far, I can see us doing 300 knots down the ILS at Zurich. It's making engine noises running with the engines off, so doors I know are closed. As I said, I'm going to do a quick scan. So your dampers on. FMC. Ooh. Normal. Have the logo lights on. Parking brake's always handy. And we're going to request prepare for pushback. That'll be nose right, tail left. And we don't want to start engines before pushback. As ever, I'm just going to put my own little squawk in that I always put in, which is 0432. Doesn't actually mean anything, but it's something I always do. Hello Captain, we are ready for pushback. Now in the FS Labs I'd be able to hear him, but in this I can't for some reason. I can hear him, he's on my TV. My monitor, whatever you want to call it. I use a 50-inch monitor for this, so bypass pin inserted. release parking brake. Parking brake release and commencing push. Okay. So off we go. So it's going to be a nose right, tail left pushback. And he hasn't cleared us to start engines yet, so I won't. So before engine start, do a quick scan. Let's get our heads up there. So your dampers are on, fuel pumps are off, batteries on. We have APU power. All the circuit breakers lights are on and the equipment cooling's on. The emergency lights, as discussed earlier, I've left the cover switch off and left them, instead of armed, on. Fasten seatbelt signs are on, and the electrics are now, sorry, let me get rid of that. The electrics on, and we'll have all the window heats on. The window heat on the Airbus is one selector. On this there's one for each individual window, as well as obviously the probe heat for the pitot tubes and everything else. And we're going to need to have the recirculation fans. The packs are off. Right, this is going to be the interesting part, because I think the packs need to remain off at the start, but let's give it a start. So he wants parking brake set to park. You don't get a message on the ICAS either way from this, but I'm sure you do if you flick through the pages, but you also get the light on and everything else. So let's let them do their thing. Parking brake is set to park, and I'm going to start the engines. I'm going to start two engines at a time. Use both selector and let those run up. They are running up, so indeed it is a case of leave the packs off. N2's running up. Okay, two running up. EGT's increasing. Also just reset the altimeters. Looks like we've got QNH of 1025. Nice high pressure. Okay, two engine starts. And we'll have the anti-collision light on and the wing lights on. We'll also have the wheel wells on, and we'll have our taxi lights on. We'll now select generator power from the engines, and we'll lose the APU. One of the things I should have done is have the fuel pumps on prior to that. There's nothing in the centre tanks, that's why we've got the low pressure light. At this point, packs to auto, and we can have the APU bleed off. Temperature wise, plus 10 degrees, so anti-ice is not required. And I'm going to select LNAV and VNAV. which are armed. 6,000 feet block altitude and an IAS of 220 on the MCP. Auto brakes are RTO, and transponders are standby. Flaps to 5 and flaps 5, and we'll confirm that here on the readout as they go down. Whilst all that's happening, as you can see, we've got just 2,300 kilos of fuel in each tank. As I did say in the planning stage, I gut instinct take more, but we'll see how we end up as we get down to Zurich. I don't think we'll be landing with a huge amount. I don't think it's going to leave us the diversion fuel necessary, but this is something with PFPX that bugs me a little bit. It's probably the way that I've set it up, but nonetheless I definitely haven't put minimum fuel in there, so I'm going to go back at some point tomorrow and have a little look at exactly what I have put in there. You'll have to forgive me, I'm having a beer while I'm doing all of this. Right, so 2 good engine starts, auto brakes are RTO, 2.6 left departure, and I would very much imagine that it is a 2.6 left. I know I haven't looked at the ATIS or anything else. I'm actually not connected online, so I'm doing all this a little bit blind. Master caution lights out, and before we go any further, I'm just going to have a little look at the system page, and I would like to do a control check, if I can remember how to do one. Remember how to do a control check, so make sure that I can see it here on the ICAS. I really haven't touched one of these for a long time. Okay. I never thought I'd feel lost in one of these, but here I am. It's got to be there. Where is it? Engine. It's calling it the multi-function display. Is it just a traditional control check that I do? It's got to be. Let's make sure that's auto. It is auto. Okay, right, so I'm going to try closing that, see if that hasn't killed the lights, which is always nice. Okay, and the other thing I did want to check was the controls. So fully right, fully left, fully forward, fully back, fully left, fully right. In the FS Labs I can normally control the tiller, but in this that seems to be a little bit different. I'm also going to pop this back up as well. Right, well, we'll do the departure on this basis also. Why have I got 4 red lights? That's because that should be down, so why isn't it? That's why. Right, so flaps are 5, 2 good engine starts, parking brake set to park, taxi light, swing lights, beacons are on, the APU is off, we have 2 generators from the engines, both packs are on, the APU pack bleed is off, and window heats are off, anti-ice is off, and the IRSs are running nice and smoothly, and we'll check them during the taxi. So down to taxi. I'll just get the nose up a little bit just so we're where we would be in the real world. Parking brake set to park. Release. Sorry. Right. Relatively heavy, coming up towards 70 tons. It's just a little bit of a push to get things underway. Okay, so 10 knots, idle from there. This is when it all of a sudden wants to become the most mobile thing in the world. The brake response on this is a lot sharper than the Airbus. I don't know if it's just the way that the controls are calibrated or... I'm just going to keep it relatively slow for now. Does like to build power, not power rather, sorry, speed quite quickly. Just getting that right balance. I'm going to take this entryway here. Clearing the airspace ahead just for our departure, because ultimate traffic normally has its own daft plans on what's happening around here. Right, that'll do us as far as here. Right, parking brake set to park. Landing lights on. They all knock forward, runway turn off lights. Interesting one with the strobes. Alright, as far as I'm concerned, that's all on. Chime back in the cab and let them all know what the plan is. And we'll have TARA, Traffic Advisory, Resolution Advisory for departure. The other thing I would like, if I can find it, is the weather radar on both sides. I mean, that's one difference between Airbus and Boeing again. there's a left to right not meeting the centre, so I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that switch would be where this switch would be inversely, if you see what I'm saying. Whereas on a Boeing everything sort of flows left to right, which is quite nice. I have to admit I prefer it. Okay, so it's a climb page. No, that's not what I'm looking for. NRF. It already says we're going to be using reserve fuel, which I can well believe because I put that in as 2 tons. So let's have a look. FMC. Trying to find the page where we got our speeds in, but I can't find it. But I know that it is 140 for V1. They are in 140 for V2, V1's 128 and rotators 130, but they're all in and I'm happy with that. The next thing is take off, go around. Okay, line up. Flaps are 5, auto brakes are RTO, LNAV, VNAV armed. Nothing on final this visual, nothing coming down on TCAS. Okay, so this is something quite different. Right, so start the clock. That's ticking. 50%. I'm just going to stop it there. That's why I've stopped it. You'll have to... I'm not going to be able to juggle that. Airspeed's alive, 80 knots, I have control. V1. Rotate. Positive climb. Gear up. LNAV check. Left autopilot to command. Command green. Flaps 1. Initializing right turn. I was wandering around the runway a little bit, I've got to admit. Flaps up. As soon as that's up, we should see that speed take clear. Away it goes. Auto brakes are off. 6,000 feet. One of the big old differences. Oh, 1013 set there. Standard. Standard both sides. Gears up and off. (6,000 feet), altimeters 1013. There's Gatwick back down there. So we've done a 180, we're now heading east out towards Dover. And we can have the landing lights off. As well as the runway turn off and the taxi lights. So a very, very different creature to the A320 for sure. My ground authority on the takeoff roll wasn't the best. But we got away in one piece, and we're here, and we're climbing. So, into the legs page. So I can climb us away now at any time. So, speed now is the next thing. That was at 250 knots, below 10,000. 4 minutes in, and that's quickly achieved. Okay, so the next thing from here is climb. Obviously we got a bit of weather out. Truthfully, I've just had fibre fitted in my house, and the big problem I've got at the moment is the fact that I'm trying to get everything sorted out so that everything's got an internet connection. Unfortunately, the computer that I run Prepar off hasn't got it yet, so I haven't got the latest weather downloads. So I've just set up a weather that I thought would be nice, but it's not accurate to the weather in the UK at the moment, which is enjoying the high pressure which is rolling off the continent, and giving us lovely almost June or July, August weather in April, late April, with good temperatures and nice clear blue skies and high pressure, which is crushed water bottles I've stopped using within an hour of putting the lid back on. So the next thing now for me is a climb to flight level 140. Put level change in to see what it does. Away it goes. It's holding 250 knots and the climb's beginning. I'm also going to increase the map range even further. So we can see Dover's now 40 miles away. And we're climbing at 5,000 feet a minute. It's not even looking back. Wonderful stuff. And for the man that's paid €1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or how many, he's got a nice view as well. Okay, so we're through flight level 100, so I'm going to increase the speed up to 320 knots. One of the nice things about Boeing is everything flows ever so slightly more intuitively than it would in an Airbus. So for instance, the legs page, you're working from top to bottom rather than bottom to top. I'm going to go and see if I can change the reserve fuel. It's not that the FMC isn't good, it's just that I'm not as familiar with it now as I am with the FMS. So straight back into FMC, route, descent, cruise. I'm looking for the reserve page, so 2, progress, 2, 3, 4. Index. Performance. I'm just going to put a ton in, see if we're still using it. So flight level 140, and I think we'll knock on up to 190, 210. I'm there. And we'll now have MCP speed. Should really be seeing some traffic. I know I cleared it, but I think ultimate traffic took my instructions a bit more heart than I'd have liked. I just don't like seeing other aircraft near the runway because normally they're doing something I'd rather they weren't doing. So that's the reason for that. Right, so we'll let this thing continue on up to 210. So 210. Crosswind from our left at 14 knots, ground speed at 430 knots, so we're knocking along quite nicely. Top of the climb isn't far away now, which is 360. Head on up to 290. Change there now to Mark number of Mark 72. Just leaving the English coast behind there. Now over the North Sea. Brief towards the continent. As I'll do an after takeoff scan now, even though it's very late. TCAS is TRA, flaps are up, gears up and off, auto brakes are off, left autopilot command, M1L nav MCP speed, Mark 72 selected, 290 on the MCP. Just going through 250 at this time. Landing lights are up and off, runway turn-off lights are off, APU is off, and the lights are A-OK. Fasten seatbelt sign. One thing I should have done during the departure is really had a look at the anti-ice, but on the ground it was 10 degrees. Don't think there'd have been anything partially up to this point that would have given us any ice issues. On. So, and that's running a little bit higher than maybe it should. A little bit discomfort level. In fact, close look at that. Altitude slowly climb around 1,000 feet to low, 290. I'll keep a good eye on that. Okay, I'll also increase the speed up now to 180. Final push up to flight level 360. 18 minutes in. Top of climb approaching. Very high level of Zurich assembly. Okay, just passing through 31,000, ground speed 465. I'm aware that we're up near the mark, just going to bring us back slightly. So now we can talk about the rest of the route inside. Two. Golf arrival. We'll execute all that in. It's got us down near enough to Zurich. Top of climb, very close now. Should have it within 2 minutes or so. Things have got very hazy out there. The horizon's almost become a blur, especially on that side. You're looking into the unknown. Okay, so descent has begun into Zurich. Initially down to 250, just going through 310 now. I'll continue it down now to 190 just because I've got other stuff going on, so my concentration isn't the best. 190 and at BLM I'll get the descent set up, the arrival set up and go from there. I'll be looking at that in the meantime. I'm not going to talk about it while I'm doing it, but it'll be all set up while you're watching. Okay, so now fully establishing the descent into Zurich. 14 minutes, 13 minutes till touchdown. 12,000 feet, 326 knots with a ground speed of 389 knots. As I did forecast at the beginning, PFPX has left us with not enough fuel to do anything other than get into Zurich, so I'm definitely going to have to go and look at the settings on the planning front there. It's reckoning 1.2 tons at Zurich. We've got on board at the moment 1.4, so apparently we're going to use 200 kilos between now and the arrival. I'm going to bring the map in. It's looking pretty straightforward. We'll have a little close look in here. Down to Schiphol, which we need to be at by flight level 70, so I'm going to start descending us now. Level change. I'm also going to bring the speed back to 250 knots because we're going to be passing through flight level 100 for that. So that should be coming back, and we see immediately we're only 2,000 feet away. So I'm going to bring the speed brakes back to 50% just to give us that helping hand in reducing speed. Straight away you can see the speeds dropping off more keenly. Down to Schiphol, which is very close now. It's going to put us outbound towards intercepting the ILS inbound on actually don't know the runway inbound. So I'll look at the arrival page, and it's this is one of the other things not having looked at Boeing for a while. ILS 34. It's ILS 340, and of course the wind's 350 at 10 knots. Speed's 270. 7,000. I'm going to put VNAV in now, just to help us on our way. The descent now 600 feet a minute. And we'll just go have a little look at what the MCP wants, which is 247 knots. Speed's back, so I'll reduce the speed brakes. And they're tucked away. Again, bring the map back into range. Bring out to 20 miles. Gives us a decent picture as well. Weather outside's still well above it. .240 knots, hour and 5 minutes since we left Gatwick. Made quite good time. Finally, we'll have a look at the descent page. We'll have a look at the forecast. Again, back into the descent page. And the progress page. And the approach ref. 40 knots, 128, so indeed it's going to be a 40 flap arrival with 128 knots. And I set the ILS for 3411.075, I'll tune that in now. Confirm that's identity. It's identity, 13 miles, that's good. Initially I'll arm the localizer until we're set up. Runway length is 3,700 metres, it's a nice long runway. And we'll use the glide slope until we're visual. On the Airbus, as opposed to the Boeing, you can set the decision height here. Again, I've lost familiarity with the FMC, so it's not something that I can sit here and comment on with quite any degree of authority at all. But definitely not going to go into that page. Still, I'm going to have a little look up here because decision height, everything else can be set. I'm thinking it should normally be seen here somewhere. Yeah, it's not here, so I'm going to look back in the FMC menu. Should be a point at which I can put the decision made. That's not there, so where is it? So running through altitude, turning speed. Know where to put the fast cabin rate. I say transition level and everything else in. Alright, we'll go with what we've got. So outbound now to Tixo at 5,000 feet, which I'll now enter, and I'll stay VNAV to get us down there. Bring the speed back as well, 220 knots in. I can see that speed going back, although we've got a green arc going down the speed tape to get us there, but we'll be keeping an eye on that, it is going back. Out to Utixo. Once at Utixo I'm going to reduce to 180 knots, and I'll also arm the localizer now. The OR localizer's armed, and that's confirmed on the PFD. The airfield's now just over our left shoulder. Maybe if it was clear we might see it, but we've still got a cloud about. So auto brakes, first thing to look at. I've also got a message here. 5,000's coming down. Have a look at the legs page. I'm going to reduce to, I haven't had a look at any charts around here at all, but I think we're clear on the high ground. I think we're clear to reduce to 4,500. The other thing we need to do is bring altimeters back from standard. And that puts us back at 6,700 feet, quite a pressure change. We now only have a ton of fuel on board. Long runway, auto brakes 1, then we're going to be flaps 40, we don't need any more than that. And just speed brakes armed, which they are. Temperature 4 degrees, still at 6,000 feet, so we can expect that to rise. Hour and 11 minutes until we left Gatwick, and we'll have we'll remain TARA on the TCAS for this time to establish on final. I'll bring it back to TA at that point. Localizer's green, turning left, reducing speed to 180 knots. Speed's not coming back, we're still descending at 1350 feet a minute. Speed's not going to be quite as keen to bleed. Again, 128 knots is the VREF to be looking for. and we are 12 miles at this time. Speed back to 160 knots. Keeping an eye waiting for the 200 knot limit, and I think we'll introduce some spoilers again. This comes back to what I was saying earlier. This thing doesn't like to slow down, and I'm pretty sure it's down to a computer bug rather than me not flying it properly. The other thing it's doing, which it's doing now, is it won't establish localizer green as it should. I'll now arm the approach. Glide slope's green. 205 knots, we're looking for 160 knots. 4,400, and we'll have both autopilots on for this. Still giving us single channel. And single channel's all it wants to give. It's probably something I'm doing wrong there, but this doesn't want to slow down. Going to bring the speed right back now to VREF. I'm going to leave it at 135. So flaps on. A little bit higher than you'd have liked. This thing again, it doesn't want to slow down. The thing is, the throttles are idling. Got speed brakes down, put more speed brakes on. But this comes back to the original bug that we had previously. This won't slow down when established on an ILS. Look how that speed's degrading there. Doesn't want to know. It's going through 3,000 feet, 4.6 miles. We're now visual with the runway. I'm going to knock the autopilot off now. I'm going to take control. And obviously watch the speed tape as well. Thousand feet to go. Gear down. I'm going to put full flap in now. Obviously this is a non-standard arrival. It's still insisting on not dropping below 180 knots if you're watching the speed tape. Miles too fast at this time. I'm trying to lose the speed here, so we're just coming in onto the runway. This is now deciding to reduce down to 140. I'll give it some power from here. We're starting to sort of hit VREF now. Auto brakes, 80 knots, 70, 60, manual braking, 50, 45, and we'll take the right turn here. Yeah, it still doesn't want to slow down. If anyone can tell me exactly what it is that's causing that, I'd be very glad to hear, because it seems to be whenever I get established on an ILS, this thing wants to sort of fly forever more at ridiculous speeds and doesn't want to give back any sort of sense of reality of what the aircraft should actually do. So from here, obviously we had a nice departure out of Gatwick, so I'm going to head over here to one of these pretty looking stands on the left, and obviously slow us down as well. I'm just going to bring us to a stop because obviously I'm single man crew. Parking brakes armed, and we'll just get everything tucked away. So spoilers are up. I know I said I'd get everything, obviously landing lights didn't go on because of the workload. I am on my own, and TARA wasn't brought back to TA only. We'll now have that back to standby. I suppose this highlights the need for the first officer more than anything else. Okay, so APU is starting, and we'll have the strobes off, and we'll have the master switches to off, and we'll have the taxi lights on, and we'll taxi the stand and set ourselves down and go from there. Parking brake to release. We'll also have a little look at the fuel just as we do get onto stand, just to see what we were finally left with. It is always in my sort of feeling to turn around and say PFPX hasn't given us enough. Taxiing now at 14 knots, 13 knots, about 50 miles an hour, fairly quickly. We'll take this link way down here, and we'll get ourselves a free gate tucked away, GSX working, and everything going on around it. Yeah, I think I'll need to reinstall this and get everything working right. So we got, again, this thing brakes like not an Airbus is a lot more forgiving, or at least FS Labs is. So left turn here. We'll head over here, we'll tuck ourselves in next to one of these Swiss birds. Nice Zurich sign there in front of us. And I'll tell you what, let's make life easy. Why make it any more complicated than it needs to be? We'll take the stand straight here in front of us, which looks like stand 36. In between these two Zurich Swiss Air Airbus A320s. Again, I'm dabbing the brakes and the thing comes to a complete stop. So on to stand, hour and 20 minutes after we left Gatwick. One last dab of the brakes. We'll just watch the traffic light system, which is up there showing yellow just below the top of the there we go, a little bit more, and I think we're fully there. There we go, stop. Parking brake to park. Okay, and the airway's working, the air bridge is working away, that's coming out. And we're going to have the doors open in a second. Okay, so we should have the APU on. We have the APU power available. We'll take that. Seatbelt signs to off. And we'll have the anti-collision lights off as well. And we'll have 2 engine cuts. And number 2 as well. Transponders standby, flaps are up, spoilers are up, auto brakes are off, and we'll have the fuel pumps off as well. Taxi lights can go, and we'll have the IRSs straight back to off. If they're no longer needed, then we'll prepare for our cold and dark state. We'll also have the APU pack bleed off, on, and that's on, and we'll have the 2 engine bleeds off, no longer required. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll do a little last minute review. The other thing we need to do just before I disappear off for a second is to get the doors all opened up. So doors, front, rear, we have air bridges, and we'll have all the cargo doors open, and I'll have GSX for the D board. The main thing I haven't done, again checklists being the most important thing, is set the parking brake, which is now set, which GSX has reminded me of. Again, I've been operating this without a checklist, so that just tells you how quickly you can miss something so important as setting the parking brake. But we've got Swiss port for the D board, and I'll look outside in a minute. We should have some nice scenery going on there, and that's me for the moment.
Beach Golf November Delta. Contact center on 127.6.
Going to 127.6. Beach Golf November Delta.
Ram Center. Orbit 1054 with you. Orbit 1054 Ram Center. Roger. Mooney Papa Uniform Whiskey. Contact center on 127.6.
127.6. Mooney Papa Uniform Whiskey. Ram Center. Orbit 8010 with you.
Orbit 8010 Ram Center. Roger.
Sorry for the wait. I must sound like an alcoholic. I had to go and get another beer. It's Friday night. I don't drink during the week, so I'm having a few this evening. I don't know who we're tuned into there, but we'll get rid of them so we haven't got the interruption. It's very nice of them to tell us whatever they're telling us. I'm going to get VATSIM soon, just to give another edge to these videos. Okay, so as discussed, the APU's on. We'll have the wheel well lights off, running across, just the logo lights. Start switches are off, APU's on. Fuel pumps are off. APU's providing power. Why is the yaw damper off? I don't remember turning that off, unless I did. Seatbelt signs are off, and we'll start turning the lights off, and we'll get the cabin down to a sort of secure state. All the little boring details. Transponder standby. Just over an hour and a half since we left Gatwick. Things happen a little bit more on demand in the Boeing, so APU's off. Lights are off. APU bleeds off. Anti-ice should have been on during the arrival. Temperature was more than low enough, so that's something I definitely missed. Again, checklists, something I'm going to be getting when I'm doing these videos in the future, so stuff like that doesn't go unmissed. There's nothing quite so bad as turning up somewhere, looking at it going, I'm in a sim, so I've taken the way that I've covered ground for progress, covered ground for granted, not for progress. Battery master off, and that's us back to cold and dark at Zurich. And of course we'll have a look outside. Where are we? Have we rendered? Or are we a tower, or what are we doing? Ah, there we are. Ah, lovely. Sorry, let us get us out of... Ugh. Yeah, welcome to Zurich. I'll be honest with you, more than anything else, I'm wandering around because I want to take a few shots later. So we got Swiss Sport and everything else that makes it all look wonderful and real. course, ultimate traffic's gone mad with the Swiss aircraft. We have the air bridge, which I don't know if you genuinely get, but still, I won't make too many silly comments on that. And the other thing which I'm really pleased of, which from here you can see, I've put the nose wheel firmly between the, look at that, right on the yellow line. I must be getting good. Either that or I'm getting lucky. Great. Honest, down to earth trip. No checklists, no great plan, but we're here in Zurich in one piece with an aeroplane that didn't want to slow down unless Boeing's at idle power, just with full speed brakes and flaps down below the speed where they should be. Ooh, hello. Do that sort of thing. I've enjoyed it. First video I've done in a while, and the first thing I've done away from FS Labs Airbus on my little YouTube channel. So again, I keep saying this at the end of all these videos. The plan is to get the 7.4, and I look forward to PMDG releasing the 747-800 and having some fun with that and doing some long haul stuff out to the Far East, out to the States, and even further from there when I do my trips out to the Far East, out to Australia, because I've got the Orbit scenery from there which I'm looking forward to exploring. Guys, as ever, for those of you that do take an interest and watch, I appreciate it, and I do hope you enjoy it, and I hope you take something away from it. Thanks ever so much. Bye bye.